Hello, everyone. Shh. That always works. Thanks, everybody, for coming out today. Just wanted to just say a few words here. This is a fireside chat. I'm going to be handing it over here to Elizabeth, or Liz, as I call her, from the Commonwealth Foundation. We were going to try and get a yellow dog lantern in here and set it on fire in front of them to get the fireside part of it, but we were afraid it would set off the fire alarm at a minimum, or the sprinkler system. So we're just going to forego that, and it's a metaphorical fireside chat. Anyways, without further ado, I'll pass it over here to Liz, and they'll take it from there.
Thank you, Andrew. So we want to talk today a little bit about what we just learned in the other room before lunch. But we wanted to bring in the perspective of two people who know the industry very well and also know the political world of Pennsylvania very well, because Pennsylvania is unique. Many of you in this room understand how unique this region is to the energy economy, the modern energy economy in the world. But Pennsylvania is a very special place in the nation and internationally as well, as a powerhouse of the Northeast, the ability to keep us energy independent and really, change geopolitical dynamics. So we want to talk a little bit about what does this polling mean as we make policy, as we look at where Pennsylvania is going, based on where Pennsylvania has been. So I want to hopefully have our panelists do most of the talking, and also take some questions from you at the end as well, to see if there's anything else that you want to dig into, because I know we threw a lot of information at you before the poll. So just to recap a little bit, a few themes, and then I'll turn it over to Senator Hutchinson first for what stood out to him. Pennsylvanians care a lot about energy affordability. They care more about energy affordability than necessarily do abstract ideas like climate change. Pennsylvanians want to see more energy production, and including more infrastructure. And then Pennsylvanians do not support carbon taxes or some of the other solutions that have been levied in Harrisburg that are really designed to raise the cost of energy in an effort to reduce carbon. So those are just three themes that I'm going to keep going back to, the things that I learned from the poll, and I think the things that will be most relevant to policymakers in Harrisburg. So first I'm going to send over to Senator Hutchinson to give his take on what stood out to him in the polling, and then we'll go on to Senator Bartolotta.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and I have to start off, I guess, first welcoming those to the community who don't live here. We are so pleased to have so many visitors and participants today, including Elizabeth and including my colleague, Senator Bartolotta, who, and I was in the Senate before Senator Bartolotta got there, but it was refreshing to have somebody come in the door who had lots of experience in the small business world, but also she had her fingers on the pulse of the energy dynamics here in Pennsylvania, because her district, not only a long legacy of coal mining, and then as Marcellus, they had gas, also the natural gas industry, but then really ground zero for the Marcellus development here in Pennsylvania, and she came in and hit the ground running on those kind of issues. So it was great to have her added to the mix in helping to make energy policy here in Pennsylvania. So I grew up here in Oil City, and therefore I've been no direct involvement in the energy industry, but I've been around it. And everything from I have fond memories back in the early 1980s still in high school, junior high, going hunting in the woods, and there's these conventional well jacks pumping oil, and they were actually great places to hunt because you had a great lane where you could see for a long cleared out path of where deer cross. Fast forward to Drakewell, obviously in my district, and then I've got to know lots of our independent small oil and gas producers over the years, and it's really been one of the top issues that I've worked with is the conventional oil and gas industry. Now to the poll a little bit, and I'll say that lots of things in here that I think some of the margins of error, or not the margins of error, but the margin separating one issue, for or against, some of those margins are huge. Whenever you see, I think it was mentioned a little bit earlier today, when you see something over 60, with 60 to 40, that's a huge margin. In this, we're talking on some of these issues, 75 to 30. I mean, it's just, these are pretty astounding numbers for polling. I'm always very interested in thinking about our future and how can we keep our young people in the community. Lots of folks who grew up here, they want to leave or they have to leave, and we don't want that to happen. I think Pennsylvania is blessed with the next generation of energy. It's available right here, and it's natural gas, and it's here in so much abundance, and we should be taking advantage of that. And our geographic location makes that even more important because the energy poor states to our north and east, so many people live there, and we can supply energy for all of that. Starting back at the beginning of about 12 years ago, 15 years ago, when Pennsylvania was a net importer of natural gas, we used to import 25% of our state's gas just to keep energy here. Now we are a net exporter, and we produce 25% of the natural gas for the country. It's amazing how things have changed, and we should be capitalizing on that, and we can do so much more. And I think one of the big keys to that is for government to get out of the way. But we talked about, there is some interesting results. I think when you look at these poll results talking about the difference between what the more senior residents feel about the future versus, do I want to live in Pennsylvania? Would I consider moving out? And to see that the people who lived here or are retiring here, they like it, they like the quality of life, they feel it's a great place. But many of our younger people feel a little bit differently, and that is reflected in these polls. And that's, I wanted to change the other way. And there's many facets to that. One of those is making sure we have the jobs, and we should be using our resources to produce those jobs. And the other is about quality of life, and we have that too. We have beautiful surroundings, and people can take advantage of that, and I think that's another way to appeal to our next generation. And obviously this, over the last year, several years, I hear it all the time about why does it cost so much to fill up my gas in my car? Or why do groceries cost so much now? Going out to eat is astronomically more expensive than it used to be. And a lot of that, again, is driven by energy costs. everything you buy in the grocery store, 99% of it, it's coming here by truck, and the cost to truck things here has gone up astronomically because of energy costs. But I hear about high costs all the time. I was not surprised to see that that's the top issue. High energy rates, high cost of living, just no surprises in seeing that. Finally, the other thing that was interesting at first blush when I looked at the polling that was presented here is there is and I'm not going to be political, but I'm just going to say that there seemed to be a disconnect between policy and candidate. Where I see people dissatisfied with high energy costs or affordability of living, and they're all in favor of producing our natural resource and energy. On the flip side, they don't seem to be reflecting that in who I think, and I think if you just looked at the policies themselves, there would be a bigger separation between our national candidates based on the issues that they said, that the respondents said in this polling. So with that, I'm going to pass back to Elizabeth. Or Senator, who do you want me to do this?
She was reaching for it.
Okay. I was just going to ask, especially given your position in the caucus, Senator Bartolotta, being very involved in the gas and oil caucus, particularly interested in what you see as maybe disconnects between what Pennsylvanians are saying in this poll and between what you're hearing amongst representatives in Harrisburg about what they want to do or what they think Pennsylvanians want, because obviously not every member of our state Senate or state House is coming from districts like yours that have a lot of energy production.
Thank you. We're playing whack-a-mole. Whack-a-mole in Pennsylvania, in the legislature with just about everything. I'm Cameron Bartolotta. I represent the 46th Senatorial District, which is in the arms of West Virginia. So if you go to the West Alexander Fair and you drive too far, you're in West Virginia, you got to turn around and come on back. So we are, as Senator Hutchinson said, we are Marcellus Shale Central, we are coal, we are gas, we are energy. And, it's not just whack-a-mole, they're beating us like a piñata out there. Pennsylvania should be the richest state in the country because we have all the energy you could possibly want right under our feet. But we have been hamstrung at every single turn. And for years now, I mean, this November will make 10 years since I was elected the first time. I can't even believe that. How'd that happen? Holy cow. We age in reverse, though. That's okay. We're good. But since before I was even elected, I'd be knocking on doors and talking to people, and the big thing was, oh, we have to tax them. I'm like, we do. And I would teach people as often as I could that our impact fee is really an impact tax, and explain what that is and why the lingo is different. But I've always said that our energy industry folks, they have their head down and they're working hard all day, every day, doing what they do, keeping the lights on, but they never blow their own horn. They don't teach the average Pennsylvanian how vital it is, how important it is, how detrimental and devastating some policies can be, some political stances. I mean, everybody wants clean air, clean water, and clean earth. We all want that. We live here. We have kids, we have grandkids. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. So to Senator Hutchinson's point, when I was reading down here, I'm like, oh yeah, I agree with that. Oh yeah. I'm like, wait a minute. Who's going to do a better job on energy? Are you serious? Really? Where is this disconnect coming from? It just doesn't make sense. So my big thing when I was pouring over this, very voluminous stack of PowerPoint and all these details and stuff, it's like, okay, we've got the information. How do we capitalize on it? What do we do with it now? How do we get the point across to the voters? How do we do that? Because in the legislature, it has been nonstop pushing from, we want to halt drilling. Well, okay, we figured that out. You can't do it. Okay, well, we're going to halt pipelines. Hold on a minute. Well, how do you get the product to market when you do this? And we're gonna tax every molecule of carbon that comes out of only Pennsylvania, by the way, not the other states that are in this compact, Reggie. And by the way, as a private pilot, I know which way the wind blows. It goes west to east most of the time. So here we are in Pennsylvania with our borders, Ohio and West Virginia, and they're pumping out as much energy as they possibly can with their coal-fired power plants, with their natural gas. But Pennsylvania needs to pay for the lunch of all these other states because we're providing the energy for them? To me, that is ridiculous. So literally, we're just trying to put out all these little minor fires everywhere, and that's distracting from blaring the message. Everything you touch, use, utilize, everything you see came from petrochemicals. Just about every single thing. We've got massive steel beams. Maybe they're fake, I don't know. But anyway, they look like steel beams. You can't have those without coal. You can't have blades in a windmill without freaking petrochemicals. You can't do any of that. You can't have green energy without fossil fuels. That message is just lost on people. So what do we do with this incredible report? And it's so hard to do a survey these days. Polling, nobody does polling. I don't know how anybody gets a poll done. But this was really in-depth and very, very conscientiously executed, and the information is vital. What do you do with it? How do you convince the voter that their wishes and desires and concerns can be fixed? Unleash Pennsylvania energy. Unleash it. Get out of the way. Let us put the pipelines in. Let us do the drilling in an effective, safe way that we know how to do. Let our conventional drillers get out there, wear those white cowboy hats and plug those wells, my friends. They know how to do it. It's in their wheelhouse. I actually was talking to Governor Wolf back when about, and I even use this, let them be the white-hatted cowboys. They know how to do this. Just take care of the liability. Let them do what they do well. We have the resources, the brains, the know-how, the will. We just have to get the politics out of the way.
Okay, thank you. Well said. One other theme that emerged in the survey this time that didn't show up in some of the earlier ones, because we do this basic poll every quarter at Commonwealth Foundation so we can track trends over time. And we dig deeper into energy about every year or so. But one thing that was unique this time, that's different from the last time we really drilled into energy, is the growing concern about reliability, right? So we can talk a lot about how plastics are a part of our everyday lives, and there's oil and gas in everything you use. But then you add in the other element of our electricity, and that no longer just being something we can take for granted. And then people really start to get uneasy, and I think they feel it at home in a way that maybe they haven't before. And so this survey found that 60% of Pennsylvanians are actually concerned about the reliability of their electricity, which I think is, we know it's going to be a major issue, but it's still, I think emerging from the public perspective. So what are you seeing? What are you doing? What conversations are you having in Harrisburg addressing this reliability issue? I think is really going to take a lot of our energy in the very near future, and shouldn't, right? Because like we both mentioned, Pennsylvania is very rich in energy resources, and yet we're embarking upon a time of potentially energy scarcity. So thoughts on that?
I'll say that I was actually surprised that the number was 59% are concerned about reliability, because I know that when somebody flicks the light switch on, if that light doesn't come on, they're going to be 100% worried about reliability of energy. I think it's in the back of people's minds, and that's why it's a little bit more of a complicated issue, but it will be critical in the coming years. And we've seen the tip of the iceberg even in energy-rich Texas. How about that? A couple of winters ago, having rolling brownouts and blackouts. And I as a policymaker and an elected official in Pennsylvania, I'm worried about that coming here. Here's what's been happening. We've been mostly through subsidies or regulations or almost mandates. It is a mandate in some respects. We've been taking fossil fuel, reliable, baseload, continuous energy off the grid and replacing it with intermittent sources, solar, wind. And you can like solar and wind as much as you know, God bless you, but they are not on all the time. If the wind isn't blowing, there's no electricity being produced. Same with solar. If the sun's not shining, there's no electricity being produced. What we have seen in Pennsylvania has been a gradual change to generating our electricity by natural gas. And natural gas is so clean. I think that's a great way to continue doing that. But there are those who want to shut off that natural gas and stop any fossil fuels from producing electricity. And I think that's a huge mistake. We need those baseload, continuous electric energy sources generating electricity. Reggie is one of the shots across the bow to try and stop any fossil fuels from being used in producing electricity, but I think that's a dire mistake for Pennsylvania. So I've tried to talk a lot about reliability, and I know Senator Bartolotta also has. It's harder to make that case, but as I said, when people start seeing rolling brownouts and blackouts in the coming years, they're going to be really concerned about reliability, and by then it's going to be too late. So I think it's incumbent upon us to really up the discussion about that. I am pleased that 59% of people, when it was presented to them, realized that it is an issue, but I think most of the time people do not think about that until it's too late.
Thank you. Completely agree. One of our issues here in Pennsylvania is that we had 200 years of coal under our feet, but along with every other source of energy, it's been vilified, and you can't easily overnight turn a coal-fired power plant into a natural gas power plant. We don't have enough transmission lines now to serve the needs of our population, which is shrinking, by the way. Let's add to that all of these data centers. And how about AI? That's literally around the corner. We can't keep up with the base load right now. I have heard that they're interested in maybe revivifying the one half of 3 Mile Island that went down, I don't know, 4 months after it started. Don't get me started. But we need to be able to and free to utilize any energy source that we have on hand to be reliable. I mean, again, this is for making sure that the lights stay on for our hospitals and our schools and our nursing homes and all of those other things that we must have on a daily basis without thinking about what happens if the lights go out. To hear the beating that coal took, and now because they almost succeeded in killing it off, now the beating's begun on natural gas. What's going to satisfy the energy needs of not just Pennsylvania, but the nation? We can't eliminate everything. There aren't enough windmills to make up for the coal and natural gas they're trying to eliminate. Just doesn't happen. 5 square acres of a gas pad produces more energy than 5 square miles of windmills. So, and you can have cows and chickens and all kinds of, you can have these gas pads on a farm and, the sky's not falling. I used to have bipartisan, bicameral tours. I would bring people out from Philadelphia, senators and House members and stuff, bring them out from Philly to come down to my district and take a tour with Range Resources. It'd be a great time. Coming out the night before, I'd bait the hook. How about a Pirate game? How about a Steeler game? Coming up. Well, there was one legislator who kept saying, oh, I can't. I'm like, So finally, he said, I can't be there for the planned tour, but I'm coming out with my staff by myself. Fine, come on down, let's go. So it was just me and him, 2 staffers, and the range resources people, and we were walking around on farmland. Grass is growing, and the trees and the birds are singing. And he said, they're lying to us. So what are you talking? Who? What? What do you mean? You know, oh, they're lying to us. I'm like, who is? He says, out there. They're telling us that this gas production, it's filthy, it's nasty, it's disgusting, and you can't breathe the air, and it's noisy. I'm like, now you know why I tried to get you out here all this time. Yeah, that's the lies that are being told and have been told for years and years. So we need to get the word out. We need to show people. Come take a look, come take a walk. But in the legislature, what we've been trying to do is tackle permitting. Make sure that, our Department of Economic Prevention, don't expect a permit, DEP, that they are really doing their job and only their job and staying in their lane. We also need to make sure that predictability stops being a filthy, nasty word in Pennsylvania in every industry. So it's a real effort, but your voices mean so much. They mean so much. Your stories, your anecdotes, what it is you do, your businesses, your family, just get the word out. Because the people in the Capitol building they work for you. They work for the citizens of Pennsylvania. They're supposed to do the will of the people. And I just think that message has gotten lost too much. And it's just infighting and bickering and, who's got the most likes on Twitter or whatever the heck that is, however you do that. But I think we really need to be stronger and more vocal and work on legislation that clears away bad regulation that has put a halt to so much, to exploration, to pipelines, to drilling, to all of those things. We need to see manufacturing and industry just tripping over themselves coming across the border into Pennsylvania and not the other way around.
I missed it. Okay. So I have more questions, but first I want to send it out to the audience in case you guys have any follow-ups before I monopolize. Yes, standing in the back. Thank you.
My main question, something that hasn't been hit on in this discussion, is the impact that carbon tax credit exchanges are having on our rural areas in the form of solar fields, which are generally not being very well received because, frankly, their environmental footprint is a lot worse than a gas well as far as what farming, what acreage it takes up, and the ability to farm on that. You can farm around a gas well, but it's really hard unless you get some sheep, and that's the only thing you're going to farm to graze. To graze a field that's covered with solar panels. In a lot of these cases, they're also clear-cut forests, which excuse me, but I thought that the whole purpose of the environmental movement was to preserve and conserve some of these areas. So I'd like to hear a little bit about what's happening at the state level and what concerns or what things you like about these policies that are enacted at the federal level that are impacting us very differently than I think it would be perceived in the cities like New York and DC on the area that we live in here now, because it's a hot issue here.
Yeah. Before I pass it along to the panel, I'll just note that there is legislation. It was in the House. It was supposed to be out for a vote, and it did not come up for a vote, to expand some of the mandates that would make things like solar or wind a little more economically attractive. Senator Hutchinson touched on that very briefly. So yes, there is a lot of talk around making those energy sources, how should I put, putting the thumb on the scale even harder in favor of those energy sources. So So with that, I'll hand it over.
Thank you. I asked to go first because this really hits home for me in my district in particular. I have 3 different big projects for solar farms. One, it's really a tremendous use for it because it's on almost 1,000 acres of what is just waste coal and has been for over 65 years, and in Burgettstown, and it's a great way to reutilize area that's just been nothing but an eyesore. It looks like Venus when you're on this thing. It's horrible. So there's an opportunity to bring lots of money, billions really, over the years into that particular area. However, on the other side of that coin, in Smith Township, Jefferson, in part of my district, I went to a meeting with this group who, as a state senator, I can't say yes or no. I'm not going to, approve or disapprove. They just wanted to let us know what was going on. There's like 100 acres, maybe not even 100 acres of this farmland that hasn't been farmed in over 10 years. There's invasive growth growing on it, whatever, but it's private property. The landowner is going to get $9 million from a solar company to come in and put solar panels all over this thing. It's private property. The government can't dictate to this, you can't do that on your private property. Okay, you're going to give me $9 million? So there's this major upheaval in this area. People are saying any of the deer that are used to grazing there, they're going to be pushed off and into our neighboring farms. We already have a huge problem with deer in our farms right now. But, they're telling me, do something. Do you want me to step in as a state senator and have the government tell you what to do on your private property? However, there is an option, perhaps, to have these folks get the zoning changed in their municipality. I think it's the only option. And at least say if you're going to have a solar farm on property, you can't use a loophole to not pay property tax, school property tax, which now there's this loophole. If it's solar panels, it's not a building. So at least somehow, some way, maybe offset, some of the disgruntled folks. But as far as I'm telling these people, it's private property. I can't do anything about it. I'm sorry. And this group had said they were going to keep some trees to, obscure some of the view. That was the first thing that went. We were not happy about it. But again, there's only so much that you can do.
A couple of comments. I'm a very strong supporter of private property rights, but here's the rub when I start thinking about solar. Solar energy is subsidized in so many ways, with federal tax credits, with state set-asides of mandated electric generation from powers like solar, and if we're going to be subsidizing something, I think it's wrong. Well, I think we should have a say in where and how these are implemented across the state. I don't, if it was just a free market and people could if you want solar panels, you can build them, but we're not going to subsidize them. But that is not the case. There's so many different subsidizations or mandates that make solar competitive at any level, and there's one other part of the equation. There is a long-term outlook about solar panels. What happens to those solar panels when they're no longer effective 20 years from now? I think you're going to see that a lot of, I'll call them fly-by-night companies, or even if they aren't fly-by-night, they're going to structure their liability such that 20 years from now, they have no responsibility for those panels being disposed of properly. So I think there is a role for the state to put a minimum, some kind of bonding or some process in place that's paid for up front, so that when it's time to retire those solar panels, they have to be taken care of. And I know some municipalities are moving in that direction themselves, but I wouldn't mind seeing a statewide requirement, a minimum requirement to do that. The other thing we have to think about with solar is that many of the components, the rare earth minerals and things that are used to build those, and the actual construction themselves of the panels is happening in China or other countries that do not have any environmental regulations. They just do as they please. They build these things in a way that with quote unquote slave labor. I think it's slave labor. It's so low wage that it is slave labor. But they're building these dangerous chemical things and with no environmental regulations, and that's, is that really clean energy if hundreds of thousands of folks in other countries are suffering the ill effects of that, of using these minerals and mining them and building these solar panels just so that somebody in the United States can say, "Oh, I have a solar energy in my house." I don't think that's clean energy. I think that's passing the buck to somebody else, and have someone else pay the harmful consequences.
Thank you. Okay, we have time for a very fast lightning round question. Anyone have a final question? Yes.
So, thanks very much for your comments. So, I got from both of you you were very clear about how you feel about Pennsylvania energy. You were very clear about your criticism of renewable energies, keep them together. Okay, but you're elected officials. And I've served in the government myself. Despite our personal beliefs, sometimes as an entity, you have to get in there and you have to make hard decisions, really hard decisions. So let's not go the whole way to the end of the climate extremists and things. Let's just say we as a state decide we want to reduce emissions by 20%. Given the mix that we have in the country, in the Commonwealth right now, how generally, I realize it's a hard thing to answer in a minute, but how would you do it, given what Pennsylvania has? I realize it's coal, natural gas, and so on. What's the magic mix that we can reduce emissions reasonably and still keep it Pennsylvania?
So you're talking about setting a target, but leaving it open as to how do you achieve that target?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
I'm going to sound like I did on the earlier questions. Because keep in mind that Pennsylvania's carbon emissions have decreased by 44% since 2005. And how did we do that? Natural gas. I think it works. But in addition to that, I am still bullish on coal. As Senator Bartolotta said, we have so much coal here in Pennsylvania, and guess what? Coal burns cleaner now than ever in history. It's amazing. You don't see the smog in downtown Pittsburgh like you did when I was growing up. It is a through investments of billions of dollars by plants that use coal. It's so much cleaner than it ever was, but there's still a segment of our society that wants to do away with it. They think coal's a four-letter word, but I think we can still use it safely, cleanly, with natural gas, and if we strip away subsidies, I think you'll see more and more natural gas, and that's really gonna. Pennsylvania has exceeded all of the Paris Climate Accord numbers. America has also, and we're not even members of that Paris Climate Accord, but we've done it because we have natural gas and we've been using it responsibly.
Thank you. A couple of things to that point. I'll repeat, we can walk and chew gum at the same time, and we've been doing it really, really well. If you punish the gas and the coal industry to such an extent that they pull out of Pennsylvania, there goes all your research to make things better. And it's the money going into these companies and this industry that allows for the research and allows for the technology to come to fruition. For example, I have recently met with a group that came to my office just a week ago in Harrisburg, and they have a process by which they can generate energy with natural gas without using heat, without burning it. It's remarkable. And these units can go next to a home. You can put, combine them all together. It's like huge battery packs, but it's using natural gas in a way that creates energy without particulate matter. But you have to combine it with carbon sequestration, which thankfully, it was like an episode of Supermarket Sweep trying to get this one bill through at the last minute. Senate Bill 831, Senator Jean Yaw's bill, to allow and just set up the process by which we can achieve carbon capture and sequestration. And it was a crowbar and a can of Crisco. But we actually got that into the budget, thankfully. We are set up now to allow this technology to make its way down the pike. We could literally be getting billions and billions of federal dollars for doing carbon sequestration. We have the technology, we have the geology, and we have the will in Pennsylvania. We could be doing it now. And these are things that are right here at the cusp, and we're working on these things to make sure that they actually happen in Pennsylvania. You can't do it without the gas industry doing what they do. You can't also, there's a group, I'm going to go visit them in Morgantown, West Virginia in the next week with the owner of Iron Synergy. And it's a group that takes waste coal, and there's a process that they use, and they make all of the carbon fiber, carbon chips, all of these other things that you can utilize waste coal. So technology is a very important thing. You can't get there by brutalizing the gas industry. So we need to let them do what they do, and they get cleaner every single year. They don't want to lose one molecule of methane. They don't. That's money. So we need to stop vilifying them and help them create the technology to make it cleaner, more efficient, and more readily available than we have right now.
Okay, so yep, that is, I'm wrapping it up, don't worry. Okay, so I just want to thank again our, what I would call energy champions in the state Senate. We really appreciate all they're doing to fight for affordable and reliable electricity and power for the Commonwealth, the nation, and really the world. Thank you both for participating today, and now we're going to be moving to a new location.
Let's give them a round of applause. Really interesting panel. But this panel is also special. Whoops. Because I'll just talk more loudly because I kicked the cord out of the bottom of the speaker. This panel was not only really good, and I appreciated how frank both senators were, and thanks to Liz for setting it up. But this panel is also the only majority female panel we have in the entire conference, okay? And no, listen, this is a big issue, folks, right? In Washington, we have this thing called manels. Up here, there's a lot of manels, okay? A manel is where you only have men on the panel, right? And the fact is, and many of you who live here know this, if it wasn't for the women of Venango County, not only would this conference not be happening, but we would not be able to recover from the situation that we're in now, okay? And so, what you're gonna hear me talk about this tonight, and probably tomorrow. But in honor of all the women that work to make this conference beautiful and maybe to make Oil City great again, really great again, I have purchased in the last year these paintings from Velda Bar von Osdal. Her work was lost to us since she died in 1969. She was an art teacher here in Oil City, but she studied in the Philadelphia School of Fine Arts. Her work was rediscovered in a trunk, I believe in the back of an abandoned car in a junkyard, and then was recently sold by the Library Association. I purchased all of these because they're so beautiful. There are 6 of them. It really brings us back to the heyday, probably the 1920s, I guess. And so I went to another female here in the county, Kyla Parkinson of Victorian City Art and Frame. She also has a shop here, and she, I think, really made these very special paintings into something truly honorable of all the women of Venango County and their efforts to make things better. So check it out. I think the framing is called Petty Arabesque. Is that right, Kyla? Okay, which gets you to the Middle East and the Arabic language, which I studied. But check it out on the way out, and if you're more interested in this kind of art and so on, please come and see me, and we can talk about it. Okay? Thanks very much, and we'll see you over in the bank building at 2:15.